everyone. I hope you are well. We've got a very busy night ahead of us, a lot to talk about. Welcome to 1111 True Crime. Yeah, I really have been thinking this through, you guys. Like everything that we're learning, it's kind of putting me in this process of really doubting that this is over a secret and thinking this is over much more. Like this seems very planned and premeditated, in my humble opinion. All the way from the very beginning, when there were news articles out there that the neighbors, and you might even remember Ian Harsh bringing this up, Jeremy Reagan bringing this up, as well as other neighbors in the area that went on news broadcasts, I should say, and talked about how there had been a party the night before. And there usually was a party. There was usually 10 to 12 people in the home partying on every night. And this was so, especially the weekend. And this would have been a Saturday night that this occurred into Sunday morning. And they all were very, very thrown off or taken back and found it strange that there was like an eerie quietness about the night. Like the one lady, the one neighbor said she always had to wear earplugs and she was enjoying the quiet without having to put earplugs in. And I was thinking that is so incredibly strange that it was quiet that night. So then I thought, what else happened prior to the murders taking place that could cue us up into understanding if there was any knowledge, right? Like guilty knowledge of a plan and action. Susan Rusco, you say, I have a question. Being considered a party house, why no party after a big football game? Excellent question. Susan Rusco says, and on a Saturday night even. And that is also what I was asking. And it's not just Susan, me, it's the neighbors as well. Why was there no... So if you think about the people, there would have been 10 to 12 people allegedly at the house at any given time. So let's take out the 6 that were there. That means 4 to 6 people were visiting that home on a regular basis. And we do see the same kind of faces when you start looking into this all the time over in that area, over at that home and so forth, that hung out there in all the little clips. You can tell by photographs who visited the home on a very frequent time frame. And it makes me personally ask, why or how would they know to stay away? How would they know to stay away? How would they know that this is the one night to stay away? And bigger yet, a bigger question yet is, if BK did this, how did that work out for him in his favor? How would he have had any control of the visitors at that home? Because on a normal night, if he would have just gotten his car at 2:44 a.m., drove all the way over there from Pullman, Washington, right to Moscow, and went to the home, there would have been like boom, 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 pounding on the doors, Anybody home? Nobody. And this went on into the early morning hours. So not only do we have a quiet night, but we have unmarked vehicle outside, the allegedly non-civilians in regular plain black clothes, not undercover where they're fitting in with everybody, but in like dark black clothes in the dead of night, right there in the band field, that are just like letting people run by them in their cam. They've got that cam on. They're talking to the 3 kids they got that really haven't done anything wrong. And you can see 4 heads go by in the light behind there. And you're like, wait a minute. What party are they coming from? Because we've listened to a lot of the Linda Lane footage. We're not hearing no party going on that these 4 individuals would come running down there from. And they're booking it. They're not just walking by that camera. Silly Me says, weren't they all at a bar till late? Yeah, they were at the bar till what, 1:45, I believe, somewhere in there. But that usually is exactly when a party would start. And some of these people, such as Xana and Ethan, were not old enough to go to a bar. And as we've seen before, there could be a party whether these people are home or not. But on this particular night, it is quiet. Oh, bam, Tracy nails it. Remember the date. This is November 13th, and there's always a big party before Thanksgiving. These kids are about to go home for Thanksgiving break. Why are they not living it up? Now, keep in mind, how did Kaylee get there? Why is Kaylee G there? 2, maybe 3 reasons. Okay? So let's go over those. One of the reasons is because she had an exam to take on Monday. But her dad said he doesn't think she just would have went back for that because she was good whether she took it or not. So that wasn't the big reason. She still, even though she went back, he said, Mr. G said he wasn't even sure if Kaylee was going to stay till Monday to even still take that test. She was undecided. So we can work that out of the picture. So now we're left with 2 things. She got a new vehicle, and she wanted to show Maddie her new vehicle and show her friends her new vehicle. She was really excited. But yeah, she could have done that anytime. The real reason that has been shared is because Dylan allegedly, DM, went to Kaylee's home allegedly. And please, 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 that's what Mrs. G said. Please, please, please come back and be my +1. Please, please, please. Right? So now we have DM not only allegedly, according to the PCA, witnessing this bushy-eyed Oscar the Grouch guy, all clad in black, very similar to the Ellie out front, saying something along the lines is, I'm here to help you. Okay, not only do we have her saying that, but she's also the one insisting and going out of her way to get Kaylee to come back and be in the house that night. And then doesn't even call 911. Doesn't even, we never hear about Dylan or Bethany checking on her upstairs or Maddie. All we hear about is how they thought they had an unconscious friend and couldn't get in their room, and it seems allegedly to be all about Xana and Ethan's room. Michelle Liberto says D called Kay and invited her over that weekend. D is on it, in my opinion. Is in on it, in my opinion. Not only did she call, I actually remember somewhere, don't quote me, do your own research, but I seem to recall that she actually went to Maddie's house, or I'm sorry, Kaylee's home, at the parents' home. I don't know where I heard that though, so don't quote me. Sherry Cross says, did anybody see that clip from Truth and Transparency clip body cam? White car drives by and suddenly Kaylee comes out of the dark and goes to meet the car around the corner from that night. I saw the clip. I don't know who that is. I can't tell, honestly. I mean, I really want to know, and I'll do more research, but I don't know if that's Kaylee, is it? You guys give me a 1 if you think it's Kaylee. Give me a 2 if you can't tell. Silly Me says, could this have been planned by some of them? That's what I'm here asking you tonight. Quiet before the storm. We have, trying to get Kaylee to come back to be in that home the very time that 4 are going to get slaughtered and murdered. That just blows my mind. Roger Reynolds says many were there 8 a.m. And we do have allegedly a witness that is working with the defense. Now, I don't know. I don't know if it's true. It is alleged, but on YouTube streets, there's the rumor. This witness claims to have seen 4 to 5 individuals in the backyard of 1122 King Road passing a joint, and one of them was DM. The girl knew DM allegedly and had actually talked to DM the day before or something along that lines, looked over there and could see 4 individuals passing a joint. And that was allegedly around 8:30 a.m., same time that front door is open. Alyssa Goldmunch says, they were all people who inquired about Brian's study. Brian made it happen and watched. Dylan invited Kay back. I think Dee was seeing JD. Susan Rusco says, need more DNA left here, please, on the like button. All right, so we have some twos, a lot. Yeah, more twos than ones. Yeah, I have a hard time unless I can literally see a face. That's just me. Sassy says, body cam footage shows the most tampering in my opinion. I have a question for you guys that may split the room, as Harsh would say. How many of you have had the same question I do, and I mean nothing by it? Why is all the footage coming from Steve G? The Linda Lane footage. We got the little sidewalk walk. What did you tell Adam? We got that. Allegedly from Steve G. Libya, the family, found the grub truck video. Doesn't that seem strange, you guys? Jenny Treglin says, I got questions. Trading the crowd love. We all very much do. Gail Gontinsky says, because Steve G is better detective than the Moscow PD. Well, that's true. Everybody is, in my opinion. Vicky Hughes says, because he has the proof. Tina Kazu says, I think there was a lot of jealousy toward Kaylee, Maddie, and Xana from Dylan. I don't trust her. Do you look at the way that Dylan looks over her shoulder at Maddie in every single picture? It is so single white female creepy feeling to me. Look at that. Look at that. Look at them slides. And she's got her head all popped up. That is so creepy to me. Patty Cake, welcome to Lemon True Crime. You say, I still think multiple weapons were used. All injuries were different. Well, and you're right. Steve G said the injuries do not match up. And I really do believe he means that it can't be one weapon. That there had to be multiple weapons. Which to me does suggest more than one attacker. Sassy says, it does seem odd for them to get access to copies, if not from a formal FOIA request. Deanna Burgett says, if it's Kaylee, she changed her clothes. Good point. Good point. Deborah Martina Lewis says, in my opinion, DM, JD, and possibly a couple of sorority girls and frat guys had a part in this murder, allegedly. Sarah Fagan says, I think Steve did it because he wants the truth to be told. I think he does too. I really do. I think he is fighting mad. And nobody can blame him. I can't. Sarah McCauley says, when you said Ethan's mom said 2 a.m. would never be the same for her, my heart sank. The Secrets of Linda Lane. And tell me, how many of you believe, one, that the victims were killed, all the victims were killed inside the home? Give me a 2 if you feel there were 2 locations, maybe some of the victims outside, some of the victims in the home. And give me a 3 if you think that the victims were not killed in the home, all the victims were staged in the house. Okay, so to me, that's a lot of 2s, because if I keep going, there's a lot more 2s. So a lot of you believe that there could be that a pair of victims may have been killed at a different location and then staged in the home. Who would you guys feel like, those of you that answered 2, explain to me, give me your concept. Who do you feel would have been killed outside of the home and then staged? I've always had this wonder, this fear too, that what really happened was that Ethan and Xana were killed before Maddie and Kaylee got home. And that Maddie and Kaylee came home. They let their dog out, if you want to call it that. And then as they turned around and came all the way in the home, they found Ethan and they saw the blood and they were like, what the hell? And the killers were already in the home. I don't know why the girls wouldn't run out unless they were all the way upstairs already and the killers just went up the stairs or what. But I've always had this like fear that it was possible that Maddie and Kaylee came in and the killers were waiting already in the house. Roger Reynolds says a basement there and outside. Well, there is a first floor, but allegedly that's where Bethany, one of the survivors, was. And Fertile with the Turtle says, you guys, they wouldn't have to tear the house down if the murders didn't take place there. That's a good point, too. Unless they're trying to hide the fact that they didn't take place there. Okay, so you could see it as two sides of that coin. Maybe it was up to Steve to allow the release of said footage, walk to the grub truck, etc., says Melissa Millies. She also says along the lines of getting the info out. Mark and Betty said when the first two victims were being unalived, why didn't the other two victims call 911? That's an excellent question. Pin that up on the wall. Let's do it. Okay, there's a couple ways it could have went. Two victims already dead. The next two victims come in afterwards. Killer's already waiting for them. That way there's a distance in time. You're not dealing with four people at the same time. The second scenario is if we have multiple aggressive attackers that hit the two rooms at the same time. Nobody has a chance to call 911. But in all scenarios, what would have prevented the roommates to be in their room and call 911? How did the killers know that the roommate wasn't going to call 911? How did they stop the roommates from calling 911? Because whatever they did, it seemed to work. And I don't buy this whole frozen shock state of DM. That's a bunch of malarkey. LMNW50 says, I always thought that Ethan and Xana were killed somewhere else and Maddie and Kayla were killed somewhere else too, and they were all staged in the house. So number 3. Okay. Well, Infertile Turtle comes back with, well, they'd be tearing down a different place nearby otherwise, in my opinion. Well, and I respect your opinion very much. Sarah McCauley says, didn't you say that once somebody is passed, they don't bleed? Well, it's supposed to be a lot of blood everywhere. And that's the other thing. Once you pass, you're still going to bleed, but it's not going to be like spurting out all over the place. Your blood, your heart stops pumping. So the only thing left is gravity. And so with gaping holes, yes, you would still bleed if the whole, oh God, this gets so graphic. Yes, you could still bleed in a sense. You could still leak. But your heart is not pumping the blood to make it continue. So I agree. But then again, what blood did you see other than that little bit on the outside of the house? Which that's not a little bit. That's quite striking. But that could have been staged too. Deborah Martin Lewis says allegedly when Maddie and Kayla got home that night, they walked into a fight in the house, in my opinion. The perpetrators were hiding in the house and everyone thought certain people left, allegedly. Deanna Burgett says, I think the jacket that Maddie was wearing was laying on the ground when the boys were stopped at the Banfield. A lot of people believe that. And the investigators lifted up the jacket and then just threw it right back down as if, it's normal for a coat to be laying on the ground in freezing weather and not be concerned in the middle of a murder investigation. That's so weird to me. Roger Reynolds points out Maddie's room was tiny. That is true. It was extremely small. If you were 2 people entering that room, it might make it even impossible to make sure you didn't hurt each other. So it would almost feel like there'd be one attacker upstairs and maybe multiple downstairs. Mary Mom, welcome to 1111 True Crime. You say, I think Steve G hired a really good PI and sister did excellent sleuthing. And in gathering before everything got bleached from SM. Good point. Good point. Addis Paris says, I feel like it was planned and executed by a group of people. I feel like BK maybe had a smaller part, like maybe the driver, and he used his knowledge from his criminology studies to help with cleanup. And you could be right. I am definitely not saying I've never said there's absolutely zero chance that BK is guilty. I've never said that. I have always said, until we actually get to see what evidence there truly is in the case, we can't go with you're guilty or you're innocent. We just have to prove and assume you're innocent, because it's kind of like, how in the hell do we know what we're going to think after we see it all? If they come out and they've got some, what the F, impressive evidence against BK, I don't want to hear, oh, you changed your tune real quick, didn't you, little missy? I don't want to hear that. I am telling you that this is how it should be working. Until we know the evidence against someone, they should be presumed innocent. Period. Once we get in court and all the evidence gets laid on the table and we get to really, really see it and understand it, that's when I feel like if you say, I believe he's guilty, I can't really be like, well, you shouldn't feel that way. I feel like we just need to give it time. But in the meantime, I don't want lies being spread, and I don't want to sink this person further into doomsday by playing this Jennifer Coppendagger person's where just making wild shit up and spewing it out of your mouth like word salad, as if you know what the fuck you're talking about. Forgive me for saying the F word, but when it comes to her, she doesn't know what the F she's talking about. She makes shit up. She literally gets on there with the evidence sheet in her hand. It says 35, and it says ID's inbox, or in glove inbox. That's all it said. ID. Okay? She gets on there. Well, it's so powerful that Brian would have, there's no explanation why Brian would have the victim's IDs in his own possession at his parents' house. It said right there, IDs in a glove. Not in a glove box, but in a glove in a box. I mean, we are over the fake news. We woke up. The propaganda isn't going to cut it anymore. It really is ridiculous. Diana R. says, I agree with your first theory, Mama D. Thank you, lovely. Like I said, agree or disagree, I'm not here to convince you at all. I'm here to get you rolling with your thoughts, to get you critically thinking, and to give you a voice, because your voice is very important for these victims. Shay Cross says, I believe E and X were eliminated at Linda Lane. I believe the killers were already in the house, and I think they let K and M come in and be relaxed and think nothing was wrong. Love Tina 2010 says they could have had a police zapper or a gun on them to stop them in their tracks. You know what she's meaning? A stun gun, right? Okay, off the beaten topic for a minute. Hold on, I want to switch cases for a minute. Did you hear about the new evidence in the John Bonet case? There's new evidence. There's two pieces of evidence that really has got my attention. And one of them, well, both of them, really make it hard for me to believe it would be the parents or the brother. So I'm not going to tell you what it is, because I want to get into it and do a thing this week. And just see what you think on that. Deborah Martina Lewis says they were warned to keep their mouths shut or something would happen to them, allegedly. Justice A to Z, how are you? You say, the ones that are not witnesses, that are witnesses, they're not witnesses because they're suspects, maybe just a thought. Well, for those of you that are familiar with the Stephen Avery case, Bobby Dassey was the star witness that put his uncle and his brother behind bars for life. saying that his uncle and his brother were the last to see the victim alive. And guess what? Now the prosecution has affidavit after affidavit of people witnessing that Bobby Dassey was actually seen pushing the victim's vehicle in the dead of night, well after Stephen and his brother Brendan would have had anything to do with it. And so when you're looking at a star witness that is also the last one to see the victim alive, you're walking a very fine line of allowing the opportunity for law officials to be like, just so you know, we have our eye on this guy over here. We'd like to be able to say, hey, he did it. But what we need from you, little girl, is we need you to say something like, oh, I saw him clad in black, or something along those lines. Because otherwise, you pretty much look like the main suspect. So in my opinion, I think it's like this opportunity that the girls are presented with. Do you want to become an accomplice to each other, where you two are the perpetrators, or we go with our story, which is better for you? I'm just saying, it's very possible. Sherry Cross says, then after K&M got home, walking the dog, or finding the dog, and then they don't suspect anything is going to happen, catches him off guard to go upstairs, and they get attacked. Tina Cassie says, bottom line, I pray for truth and justice for these kids because it breaks my heart. Roger Reynolds says, red Mustang still makes me wonder. Well, and red would hide blood better, wouldn't it? What Roger's talking about, what he's talking about is just a little ways from the home, there was this abandoned, like crushed up, red type Mustang vehicle just abandoned. And Tybeck come over there and was getting all kinds of samples and all that. And then again, I hate to say it, but just like in the Steve Avery case, they were like, nothing to see here, nothing to do with the case, go look elsewhere. Sherry Cross says they took their phones and tied them up. Now, Sherry, when you say they took their phones and tied them up, where do you get that from? Because quite often you come up with a scenario, and I try to see where you're going with it. But if you're going with that, are you getting that they took their phones and tied them up because of that initial post by DM, allegedly? Because remember, we had that original post that allegedly was on one of the surviving roommates' DM, where she claimed that she came downstairs, meaning she was upstairs. She came downstairs and found the victims. They were tied up and gagged. Okay, that throws me because it came out so early. It was never debunked to be not DM's account. And it just, I don't know. We get so many different stories. Justice A to Z says the red stuff coming outside of the house could easily have been staged a little over the top. I agree. That is so bizarre. I'd never seen anything like that. I mean, if you took red hair dye, trust me, when we did the haunted house, we had to use red hair dye for some things to make it look like old dried blood. It looks exactly like that. Red hair dye. Merle's mom says, blood smells like iron. Death has its own scent, no matter how it happens. Absolutely 100% true. 100% true. The smell of blood makes me want to vomit. I had to cut up deer. I've smelled human blood because of the fact that I worked in a nursing home, and people would fall and have compound fractures with a lot of blood. And yeah, it has its own odor, and it smells funny. Kara says, still wonder if the stun gun was used to control Ethan. I wonder that too. Lucy Lou Who, there was blood on the kitchen cabinet doors in one picture that was going around, allegedly. Melissa Maley says, I can't get the audio of their names being said aloud in between whistling. Well, I don't know what to tell you, lovely. A lot of people said they could hear it without even headphones, just on their phone. Cindy Neufeld says, whose truck was it that they got in? Are you talking about from the grub truck? Allegedly, that was Eric Goer. And he said that he went through an interview and he claimed that he lived less than 1,200 feet from Brian Kohlberger's door. And then he was allegedly taking credit, saying that he told law enforcement he's the one that turned Brian Kohlberger in. So it makes me really question this whole IGG when they don't want to talk about it. We don't really want to show the work how we got to Brian. Just say it was through his grandpa, his great-grandpa, his dad, something like that. We don't want to really get this dude involved because it could risk his life, right? Because we don't have the right guy, so the real killer's still out here. That's the only way it could risk somebody's life. I get so tired of that where they're like, we have to keep this under seal and protection for the safety of our officers. Well, are they lying about shit? Because if they're absolutely telling the truth, you got the dude behind bars. What's he going to do? Mind melt with you if you come over? I mean, what? It doesn't make sense. Sarah Kelson says it was also homecoming, a big party night. What? Was it homecoming? Was it, you guys? Sarah, was it homecoming? I didn't know that. If it was homecoming, why wouldn't there be a party? AHH says the spatter of blood can tell you how tall the suspect was, as well as where they were standing. That's why they had to get in there with that creepy disaster cleanup crew. Raintree 422 Parker says, why was Maddie's black jacket outside? Silamy says, how much time did the perps spend in the house? That's a good question, too. Patty Cake says, maybe Xana and Ethan finished at home, but something went down on Linda Lane, in my opinion. A lot of people really believe that. And so, I have decided that I am going to go pick that spot that all of you are saying that you're hearing all the action. I'm going to put it through my system and see if I can clean it up. And in the next day or two, I'll come back on with a live and we'll go through and we'll work on listening to that together and see what you think it is. I'll try to put words with it or something along that lines. Could take me a day or two, so don't fret. And I want your opinion. I want to work together on it. So I know the time that I need to start on the Linda Lane for this to make any sense at all. And I'm just going to go through it. We've done it before. That's how we found our timestamp where we hear the names and the whistles of Jack and Kaylee. Very clearly, too. Justice A to Z said, so why is Chief Small Fry running for the hills? Or did you guys already cover that earlier and I missed it? No, I didn't know he was running for the hills. What's up with that? Fallon says, at first of case, DM was said to have posted on her social media page that she found the bodies bound and gagged and blood everywhere. University paper printed same story, but was forced to delete it. All allegedly true. Nanak says, I like this channel. I am learning things I've not heard or thought of. I do think the brat fight is part of the story, in my opinion. Well, I'm not going to be able to shake the fact. Well, I won't say fact. I won't be able to shake the thought, allegedly, that DM went and begged Kaylee home and then didn't even call 911 after she was murdered. And not once do we ever hear about her checking on Kaylee and Maddie up there when she can't get in the room. She just, I can't get in there to talk to Ethan. I can't get in there, so I'll just call, other people. I'll call Ethan's brother. I'll call Hunter Johnson. I'll call this person. I'll call that person. How important is Maddie to her? How important is Kaylee to her? Apparently not at all. We never hear that she went up there and she tried to get in their room. Why not? Does that tell us that that initial report that the police gave when they answered, that reporter said, were all the bedroom doors locked when law enforcement got there? And he said, yes. And he repeated it, and he said, all the doors were locked when we got there. So, why did DM never go check on the girls upstairs? That yet she's, just before this, we have all this eerie quietness and all this, and her begging for Kaylee to come be a +1. What happened? Why not call 911? And why is there no blood outside that home? And why is she side-eyeing Kaylee in every damn picture? LaMail says, concerning Jack D, love and hate are both strong emotions. You're right, LaMail, you're right. Sarah McCauley says, drugs in the home, maybe, or maybe Ethan and Xana were, by then, locked up in Xana's room. Bound Pool says, blood gets thin with water. What if somebody showered in the second floor bedroom, or bathroom, drain, clogged and overflowed into Xana's room, washing blood into the edge of the wall and running down outside foundation? Ugh. Oh, that's a gruesome thought. Infertile with the Turtle says, Brian may be scared to flip on this person and others. I tend to think Brian was paid into it or framed. And you could be right. You could be right. Deanna Burgett feels the jacket messes with the timeline. How so, lovely? Alexis M., welcome to 1111 True Crime. How are you, lovely? You say I may have missed it, but do we know who released the LL security cam video? Well, that's a long and convoluted story. Your best bet is to go and watch the lovely Jules of All Trade, where she does her reaction channel. She has went over trying to track down where the Linda Lane footage originated from. Yes, there is rumor that Steve G bought it on the YouTube streets. That's one rumor. And then there's a rumor that it was stolen and then sold allegedly to Steve G. I'm not sure. But that's rumors. That's rumors. Bonafide troublemaker. I haven't seen you in 2 years. Maybe not that long. You say because of time, I feel BK had someone with him. This was at least 2 people. Why else did he ask if anyone else was arrested? Keep in mind, Brian Enton's the only one that ever said that. I want to be able to trust it, but why didn't we ever see that in print from anybody else but Brian Enton? Okay, let me put it this way. If it's not from 3 sources in the media, 3 sources don't have it, if just one source has it, it's likely untrue. Raintree 422 Parker, did Steve know that Ethan and Santa were killed first? Is that why he said they didn't have to go up the steps? Well, allegedly, according to everything that we've heard, it was Kaylee, then Maddie, then Xana, then Ethan. Hope I did that right. Well, I can't remember the order. Just go look at the tattoo. Or better yet, go watch a video that I just did 2 days ago. And it shows the order that they were killed in. Right on the tattoo of DM. The tattoo she has. Just as AZ says, I Googled cheese fried today. And I didn't see anything about him running for sheriff. That's crazy. Interior Family Studio says, I am hoping that unlike Stephen Avery trial, BK gets an honest and fair trial. Roger Reynolds says Maddie's coat could have been Jack D's. Good point. Good point. Infertile with the Turtle says, ha ha ha, I have no idea who you're talking about, but you're a cute, angry person. They are valid frustrations, right? Merle's mom, welcome to 1111 True Crime. You say, sadly, we don't get to see all the evidence, even after court case is all finished. Very true. Mark and Betty says, has the DD driver ever been identified? I got a feeling they will be the prosecution's star witness and put BK outside the house. You could be right, Mark and Betty. You may have the point of the night. And the reason I say that is because And it may not be the DD. It might actually be the DoorDash driver, too. Steve G alluded to something along the lines of, and he ho-hummed around it like he didn't really feel he should be sharing it, but he couldn't quit talking moment, is what I felt, in my humble opinion. And it was almost like he was spilling the beans about there being a witness, a witness out delivering the food that had parked, and then somebody saw the perpetrator as the food guy or girl was driving away. I don't know if that made any sense. I don't know if it was it was some sort of witness or camera that caught it. Happy Helms, welcome to 11 True Crime. He says another creator, UL, brought forth interesting thoughts. Me and D are the only two people who know anything before the cops came to the house who were actually there when the crime happened. Truth. Ooh, you could be right. True Crime Tarot says, I think the blood on the side of the house was coming out of water pipe from E and Z in the shower. Justice A to Z says, if Jimmy James becomes sheriff, then I can't call him Cheese Fry anymore. And I just came up with that. I like the Cheese Fry. You're funny. You crack me up, lovely. Go over and check out Justice A to Z's channel. She does true crime like us, and she helps a lot on the Kylie Rodney case as well. So if you are into Kylie Rodney or any of the true crime cases, IDAHO4, Justice A to Z, check her out. Give her a look-see. Bonafide Troublemaker says maybe somebody was jealous of Xana and Ethan's relationship. The girls upstairs heard, and therefore that is why he went up the stairs. Dollar Sterling says, did anybody know if the two survivors went out that night at all? Yes, they did. They did, and allegedly they were home by 1 a.m. Nettie says, if E was really in a fight, maybe they showed up at the house to finish it. K and M showed up, see something going on, go upstairs, and tried to lock themselves in the room. Just a thought. And you know, Nettie, you've got a good thought there that may have actually happened. You know, the fact that Hunter, the triplet to Ethan, was at the Sigma Chi with Ethan, and he has cleared the record and said there was no fight at Sigma Chi that night. So either he's absolutely lying, or that fight may have taken place in the Banfield. It may have taken place on Linda Lane. It could be a back alley fight. That could be where all your intuitions, where half of you are feeling like people were killed on Linda Lane. It could have started the fight off there and gotten really ugly and ended up in 1122, where they all ran in their house, locked their door, and people came in through the windows. We don't know. I mean, you know, you want to be like, oh my God, you're such a conspiracy theorist. But you can't really say that when this is a conspiracy to murder 4 people. I mean, face it, if it's more than one person, it was a conspiracy to murder 4 people. Yvonne Poole says, to me, it looked more like 10 cards in a glove box compared how the other D's in the report were written. So if you look at the handwritten version, it looks like 10 cards, not ID cards. So if it really is 10 cards in a glove, in a box, it could be 10 collector baseball cards with a baseball glove in a box. It could be that simple. Wouldn't we all feel so mad at Cop and Dagger if we found out those were damn baseball cards? Happy Hounds, welcome to 11 True Crime. You say, so whatever B&D come up with is what we're forced to believe. Or, I mean, yes and no. We can't affect the court in the way that the jury is going to take what they say. We cannot affect that. But what we can do is we can work like hell until the jury is chosen to get the right info out there. But it still doesn't... we don't have a way to correct what they saw or said. We don't have a way to do that because we have no idea. This is a crapshoot, you know. Unpopular opinion, 1111. Did you say by chance happen to see that pic of the 4 frat guys dressed all in black tactical looking clothing that was titled Best Weekend Ever and was taken the weekend this went down? I heard about it and I never got to see that picture. If any of you happens to have that picture of the four brat guys dressed all in black, tactical, that says best weekend ever, could you please send me that picture to rubberducky2005@yahoo.com. Good point, Elizabeth Munster. We won't know until we know, if we ever know. Well, and hopefully the truth will come out. I love you guys. I truly do. I thank you humbly very much for any and all support, no matter how little or how big. You are very valuable, whether you like it, you shared it, you commented, you participated in the chat, or you just simply swing by and say hello to me. I appreciate it so much from the bottom of my heart. And I hope you guys have a great, great Thursday. I will see you in the next day or so. We'll go over some serious Linda Lane footage. All right? All right, my loves, with that, are you ready to do this? I love you too, you guys. Aw, Jenny. Sassy, you guys are beautiful. Beautiful people. I love you. To the moon and back.